put it this way. So each time I've financed a customer has financed a job with me, I have to think that that's the only way I got the job. I don't know how else to look at it. I mean, because how could you say then, well, I mean, maybe they just wanted to pay interest. All right, we're on the air. Andy, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. Straight off of vacation.
Heck yeah.
It was a lot of fun, but we're going to get right into it. So today, guys, I want to hear from you in the DMs or over on our text messages and stuff. It'll give you 100 different ways to get in touch with us. Check out your podcast app. There's a link there. You can click it. You can send us a text. We don't know your phone number or anything like that, and it's super cool. We just did a recent episode with listener questions. It's fun. We enjoy that kind of stuff. We love hearing from you.
Yep.
All right, so let's get into it, Andy. Today. Sending out a lot of bids lately, and one of them just this week was a job that I had done about 12 years ago.
Okay.
I know it was back when I was teaching and everything, because I remember this job specifically. When the guy called, it jogged my mind. I had brought my class to this job to show them primary, secondary piping. We talked a lot about gas sizing, pipe sizing, just the different ins and outs of hydronics and stuff, because this was a boiler, bunch of in-floor heat in this house.
Yeah.
And turns out the boiler we put in at the time, it was by a different brand than we've been using lately, and it's a model that they actually just completely stopped supporting, unfortunately.
Gotta love that.
I know. I didn't actually know that until this customer told me, because it's just been a long time since I've been around this brand, stopped installing them a number of years ago now. And so I'm just kind of tending to a few that I had out there previous installs. Anyway, this one needs to be replaced.
Yeah.
It's got enough problems that a couple parts are only really prolonging the inevitable. And unfortunately, in this case, the venting also has to go because it's 2-inch PVC solid core. I mean, it's legit okay with the install and the manual and the code and everything.
Right.
But the new boiler isn't going to accept it.
Yeah.
And so with some back and forth with the homeowner on site, and said, hey, we came up with a better solution. There were some things in the way that were going to make this install of the new boiler a little more challenging and take longer. So we thought, well, let's move it. It was his idea.
Okay.
So we're going to move the boiler. Shortens up the venting, makes it a little more doable, adds a couple things, obviously. But anyway, set the price. Let me just give you, so there's 4 zones of 4 different radiant manifolds.
Right.
Each one of them has multiple zones in it. Big place.
Yeah.
The garage, basement, main floor. Each manifold has multiple zones on it using the little, thermal actuators, that kind of deal.
Right.
All of that's staying. None of it even has to really change.
Yeah, like you said, it's 10 years old, right?
Yeah.
So well within its service life.
Oh yeah. Even the old Taco pumps that are on there are going to just stay. Everything's fine.
Yep.
There's no low loss header right now.
Yeah.
It's just closely spaced T's.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's one of those Lochinvar cadets.
Yep.
That, wall hung, you know what I'm, so you could picture the boiler.
Yep.
Couple zones off to the side and we're all good.
Yep.
And we're going to move the boiler across the room a little ways. And so I just need to reconnect to the existing piping, which will actually allow me just to put the low loss header over by where the existing boiler is. Right.
Right.
And make it super simple install. So basically I'm going to take out a boiler. I'm going to add a low loss header and a new boiler. And I sent it was an easy estimate, sent it to him right away. I'm like, here you go.
Yeah.
You'll have this very soon and we'll talk. And he's motivated just to do the job. But his reply was a very nice reply, but it was just like, hey, this is actually double what I expected. Is there any way to do this for less money? And I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts when you do that? Obviously, I spent the time I needed to give them a solid price. I'm not interested in losing jobs by marking stuff up. I want the work.
No.
I have been losing jobs lately. I will say that my closing rate, everything has dropped. I mean, prices have risen enough.
Yeah.
That it's affecting some of the more expensive jobs.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
And this one of them, it may be the same. I'm at a point where I gave them the price. I can't change it. There's not really anything I can do. I could put in a lower cost boiler, but to be honest with you,
It's tough. That's
it's
a
not.
tough. Yeah.
I can't figure out a lower. There isn't actually a lower cost boiler. There's not.
Right. I feel like every time I've endeavored down this conversation, like where you get the same thing, like, well, how do we do this cheaper? Or you have this conversation with the homeowner while you're at their house. And I've admitted this before. I am notorious for, I'll look at it and then I'll be like, I need to think about this. And I don't know that it's because I'm unsure of what I'm doing. It's more that I just really want to dial in how I want to do it. And I don't really want to do that while I'm standing there having a conversation with the customer. It's
Right.
In the case of a boiler, if it's a bathroom sink or a toilet, no, here, this is what it is. Boom, we're out.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. The boiler's a little bit, hydronic system replacement is a little bit more involved than that.
It's custom. It's custom every time. It's a little different than the last.
And so, I mean, I regularly will revert back to my flat rate pricing setup that I've got going, and that's how I determine the price. But it may be like, well, I mean, I don't know. I need to think about, do I want to do a chimney liner kit, or do I want to try and sidewall vent this, or can I drop 2, 6-foot straight lengths of Centrotherm down the chimney? Will that do it? Yeah, maybe that'll do it. And so I might, tweak that aspect of it. But really, when it comes down to it, I guess I look at things like this and I go, I'm currently installing Viessmann boilers and these, Zilmit low loss headers and these pumps and these zone valves and this controller and this, these Webstone valves and these key components.
Yep.
Not because they drive the price up and it makes this ultra premium thing, right? And I think you're in the same boat. We're installing these parts because it makes it faster to install and service.
It's not just that though.
Yeah.
It's like, that's one part of it.
Right.
Not that you haven't mentioned it yet. Yeah. It also is, these are the products I'm installing because they will be trouble-free for
exactly.
the customer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, which I'm only just saying it for you because I know you. So, couple things though, like when you get this response, really, like, honestly, you start Googling, there's a lot of great info, like free.
Yeah.
Now with like AI, it feels like it pulls a lot of like from a lot of different sources. Yeah. And one of the things that, Google will tell you, or anybody else, is like, and then these coaches, they'll tell you, like, so you have to listen to the customer and say, okay, well, you might think that they're just being cheap or whatever, and maybe they are.
Right.
But you have to, in some cases, they're not. And so you have to be like empathetic and listen and be like, okay, what is this person really saying? Like, they simply don't have the budget for it, or they don't agree that it should cost that much, because those are two different things. Sometimes they're, together at the same time. But what am I trying to say? Like, I think ultimately, like, you have to reply to the customer.
Yeah.
Right. And I think you nailed it where you go, okay, well, we're using the quality components and here's why. And that I think you have to explain it to them. I've tried that route and it seems to be helpful.
Sure.
And that's how I responded to this guy.
Yeah.
I look, like this, obviously our costs are ever increasing, it feels like. And I don't want to get into that conversation because it seems like people want to get political on it. But the fact of the matter is tariffs and things like that have caused prices to rise over time.
And they're going to continue to rise at this point as the rest of our, economic environment catches up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So the conversation had to shift, kind of like I had to highlight the benefits, like why I use these products, and that there's really, like, the alternatives aren't any lower cost. Like I said a minute ago, I'm like, well, I have to try to find like a lower cost boiler. I can't. There isn't. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, unless this customer decides not to do the job, or they just decide like, look, this is what it is, and I have to deal with it.
Yeah.
They know that they're under a deadline.
Yeah.
I live in Minnesota. I could tell you that their heat is probably going to be turned on well, for sure by like November 1, but probably
Right.
sometime
Like 90 days.
pure yeah, sometime periodically how could be full time in September.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Very likely October and like I just said, for sure by November.
Right.
But you're going to have some heating days leading up to that as well, and without this system he doesn't have heat.
Right.
Okay. So like I'm trying to highlight the benefits, like explain how the product and the service I provide them is going to be, have unique advantages that they don't get with other products.
Yep.
So then you get into the conversation like, look, this is what I believe to be through experience and installing this product and others, by the way,
Mhm.
and servicing all brands that I believe this is the best brand of boiler.
Right.
And here's why we need to install this product. And I'd start to show them the like the value. I think that would be the way to state it. Like show them why I believe that this is the best product, and then show them the value they receive. And one of those things I bring up often is like, look, you're getting a 10-year warranty from the factory because of me.
Right.
You won't get that from other contractors for this product.
Right.
Instead, you'll get the standard 5-year warranty.
Yep.
But I'm doubling it.
Yep.
Included in the price of the job that you're not going to you won't realize that benefit from anybody else. So there's a value there. Should it in their mind be like worth twice the cost that they anticipated? Look, that's a whole nother story, right? So I don't know why this guy, and he could just be blowing smoke up my butt, but like, I don't know why this guy thinks it was going to be half the cost.
Right. Well,
I don't.
Yeah.
And I think that's something you have to ask him.
And maybe he's looking at it going, well, when I had you do this 10 years ago, it was X, right?
Yeah.
Do you recall 10 years ago, was that the boiler of your choice, or did you install that because he was looking for a low cost alternative then?
Well, I think it might have been a little bit of both. Now I can't be certain, but I remember I was I had like this like realization when I was talking to him on site.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen the guy in many, many years, hadn't had me come back to do any services or anything like that. Yeah. I remember I was like reminded like, oh yeah, this guy is going to be about price for this guy.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, I think it was a little both. I think at the time I was keen on that boiler because it was a low cost, like entry level boiler.
Yep.
And it was put out by a brand at the time that we were pretty, use the same way. We were pretty high up on. Yeah. We were using them all the time. Yep. But I guess that didn't really matter in this case, because like what's happening now is I give them a price, what I thought was actually a very good price, to be honest with you. And I'm not offended by him bringing this up by any means, because I've had this conversation before with many other people. But I think I bring it up today, just get your reaction to it, kind of put a couple things out there that I've learned over the years, and I'm no full expert on by any means. But I think kind of the first step is to not focus on the cost of it. Yep. You could say, look, this is what we arrive at because I'm, just like any other business, I need to make money on this job, but I can assure you that I'm not like doubling my, it's not like I'm making double what I'm paying on it or anything. I have to, and then I think you shift it to that value side of things and say, this is why. And unless you choose not to believe me, you have to choose to believe someone. Right. And I hope that obviously I hope I cover my tracks so that they understand. I never go back on it though. I will say that. And for the sake of this discussion and people listening, I will say that I look at the scope of the work, and we've talked about this many times in the past. I look at the scope of the job. Like, is there anything we can change, omit, not do different? Absolutely. So moving this boiler is actually not going to really add a lot of time or materials. A little bit. Now I have to run some more piping from a new location to the old, but it's minimal. It's like 40 feet of pipe. Yeah. Supply and return. So obviously not that bad. Right.
But it's not going to be like thousands of dollars.
Correct.
Right.
It's hundreds.
Right.
And so the reality is I'm not going back on my price and say, I could do it for less.
Right.
Because that's never going to help you.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to move forward from that. You're really just, now you're just making less money. So like,
right.
And my price is based off of, like, I'm not throwing darts at a wall here.
Right.
Like I've been
we've done
re-examining. Yeah, I've been re-examining how I'm pricing things all the time. Yep. And where I need to be, and those take into account what I'm trying to put away in the bank for investments for the business and operating costs and all those things. Yeah. So it's challenging. You get that customer once in a while that just wants to be like, well, that's too much.
Yep.
And in some cases, it is too much for them. I've had that,
and it is
lately.
Yep,
I've had that lately.
Yep, it is. So here's something I'll throw out there, and we haven't really talked about this. This is something relatively new that I've been doing. So we do a flat rate annual boiler service, high efficiency boiler service, right?
Yep.
So let's just say, for argument's sake, it's $300 to do that, right?
Yeah.
So reasonable price.
I bet you it's a ton of value there. Yep.
Yep. We're going to come in and do, like a 19-point checklist on your heating system, and we're going to do all these things and, make sure everything's ready to go for the heating season. Okay. Everybody's got something similar. One of the things that I was looking at, and this is something that I've, you look at long term, right? We're selling a product that's easy to service. It's easy. The boiler itself is incredibly easy to service.
Yep.
It's quick.
Almost unmatched.
Yes. There are very few things that could be done to improve how fast you could service this boiler, other than maybe some of those big like knobs on the heat exchanger bolts, so you could just click, 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 click.
Yeah. Can you eliminate tools?
Yeah. So anyway, I've looked at it and I went, and this is in a kind of in collaboration with Miles and Tristan and Rob as we're doing these services and looking at how many we've done over the past years. If we're going into service, let's say a Lochinvar or a Well McLean Ultra or some of these other, the competitor brands, it takes us longer.
It's an additional cost.
Right.
You can't service it for the same price.
And so here's what I've done. Those boilers, because we built our price for the flat rate price, stay at that price.
Okay.
For my Viessmann customers, they now get $100 discount on their, right? And it's right in the quote when I sell it to them. If you perform annual service as a Viessmann customer, trusting our partnership with this brand, we're gonna offer you a $100 discount on your annual service. But it's on, so if you have me come in annually, we're going to come in because I know that I've installed all of the parts that I need to make this really easy to service.
That's a good, I'm wrapped. Yeah. Now you got my brain spinning, my wheels are turning.
So there's a Viessmann, loyal customer loyal customer boiler service.
If you do it annually, what if they skip a year? What do you charge them regular price?
I mean, I guess it's up to question. Depends on why. But I would like to say, no, they go back to the regular price because now I'm going to spend more time cleaning or whatever. But
yeah.
But the fact of the matter is if, and you can see this on the jobs that you've done, you got an expansion tank service valve in there. You got purge points, you got a magnet, you got a hydraulic separator, right? It's a piece of cake to service these things.
It is. And we could talk all day about how these things are a huge benefit to them.
Yeah.
And that's part of that conversation when I respond to this guy, right? It's like, well, I mean, a lot of the cost is materials. You're correct. Sure. And there's a fair amount of labor involved too.
Yep.
My labor, I can't, I guess I could pay myself less, but that's not what we're doing.
We're not doing that.
We're not entertaining that idea.
Yeah.
Could I eliminate some components? Well, I'm certainly not willing to. And ultimately for the reason of it's not going to benefit anybody.
Right.
If you want to save $100, then you're like, look, I can offer you financing to lower the upfront cost burden. That's what, so that was part of my discussion.
Yeah.
And so they have to either be able to afford it or not.
Yeah.
And then the next step is are they willing to?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to explain that empathetically, not just being like the one thing I have learned that if I could leave this discussion, I can tell you for sure, don't get defensive. It's not like, don't get defensive or offensive. Don't say like, look, if you can't
this is
afford
what
it,
you
then
get
I'm
for
not
buying a cheap boiler.
right. Yeah, and don't try to make, yourself look better by saying like, well, nobody else is going to do it this way. I'm better. Yeah, okay, say it in a much different way and just say like, look, this is why I've chosen and here's how you're going to benefit. I like that loyalty thing though. I'm gonna have to explore that a little bit. I'm still trying to hone my whole my builder relationship thing and stuff. I'm looking at a lot of different things for the business. You bring up like, how many of these services have we done? Hypothetically, and you look, and I've had that conversation recently with Heather and talking about like, like what are we bringing the most amount of money in on, and it's it changes throughout the year, right?
Yeah.
But if you look at it, you look at your numbers and you look at how you're coding your jobs and you look at the reports like on your QuickBooks or House Call or whatever, right? Yeah. And I go, man, I service a lot of boilers.
We service a lot of boilers.
Well, I feel like I do it pretty cheap. Like I really do. And I look at my biggest, quickest potential for like increased revenue would be to raise that price. So I certainly haven't been thinking about like, should I do it for cheaper?
Yeah.
But I like the idea of offering it because it's so powerful as a sales tool up front to the right customer that it perceives that as a solid value that they'd be getting their money back on. Yep. Yeah, it's interesting. You know what? You talked recently about, hey, we're about to start a job. The water heater ain't going to fit, right? What do you got to do? You got to pivot. And this isn't really a lot different than like, you have to be able to address this as it comes up, and it's going to come up, especially the people listening to this that haven't been doing this for a very long time. Maybe you're starting out, or maybe you're back at it. You did it and you went and worked for somebody. Maybe you're back and you're reminded of all the challenges. Yep. This is just one of them.
Yep.
And there's not a lot you can like, it's harder to, like it's gonna come up. Mm-hmm. You can't really get in front of it too often, like where they're gonna be like, well, it is what it is. Yeah, kind of hard to do that, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's an interesting balance. Being able to do that. Some sales are so cut, dry, easy, simple. You price it, and you're like, I must have left like $5,000 on the table because those people signed way too quick.
Yeah.
And then you get other people that, that really truly do think about it and go, we're going to have a hard time making this work. It brings you into that point, where we've talked about this a couple times here recently about financing and, the buy now, pay later type thing. And it's like, maybe that's an option. Just for food for thought. And I did look into this a little bit further. We were talking about the whole Klarna thing. Yeah. I think the only way you can use that particular service, there may be others, that particular service is only for storefront products.
Okay.
So I think you have to have a website.
Well, the other one, the one we did, the one we've been using, the WiseTech through HCP, done a few jobs with it.
Yeah.
And I've had to kind of, like Denver was explaining to me, like there's a couple of little workarounds that I've kind of had to toggle on and off for myself. And that's fine. It's not a complaint by any means. So it's worked. Yeah. It's worked for me. Put it this way. So each time I've financed a customer has financed a job with me, mm-hmm. I have to think that that's the only way I got the job. I don't know how else to look at it. I mean, because how could you say then, well, I mean, maybe they just wanted to pay interest. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, I have to believe there's really no other way for me to look at it other than I sold that job to that customer because I offered them a alternative way to afford it.
Yeah. No.
Or a way that could get the job done for them for whatever reason is affordability. So, I don't know. There's a lot to juggle.
Yeah.
We're jugglers.
Just a big circus.
We're jugglers pandering for your feedback. So send us a message, get in the DMs, hit us up over on Instagram, Facebook, whatever. Right. Put MTGA in front of it so we can really, filter it out. And we'd love to hear from you. Yeah. And Andy, let's wrap it up.
Wrap it.
Thanks, man.
Later.